really didn't sound like a big deal at all on the way. In fact, once we got there, they literally were talking about that there's a fire in the fireplace.
Right.
And exactly where it's supposed to be. Right. So that was the information we got. And in fact, when we pulled up, I remember distinctly, I was on the engine that night, and I remember distinctly that the homeowner himself, later we somewhat became friends after that, but his name was Brandon, and he was leaned over and he was spraying, the water hose, and he kept telling me when I came up to him, he said, "I can't get the fire to go out." So I didn't know what he meant by that until, and even I was looking in there and I was like, "Where's this glow coming from?" Until to the side of it, there was just to the side of the firebox, I could see this crack in the wall, and I could see a glow behind there. So of course I started to hit the wall. Really nice fake rock work, all that stuff, and I'm just hammering through. And even at the beginning, I thought, "Oh man, this is bad. What if I'm wrong?" So I'm smashing through, and sure enough, there were flames all around the firebox.
Right.
So we knew that we had a fire, but it wasn't in. It was all in that space, the whole space, and it was coming out of the top as well. So we start to hit that fire until we look over our heads. And by the way, this is one of the outdoor fireplaces where it shares a common roof with the house.
Yeah.
And
Wiley, real quick, because we did have a little bit of technical difficulties, so we're live now.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. If you have questions, ask. So Wiley is talking about, this is my friend Wiley Jones. We work together at the Franklin Fire Department. Amazing man. And he's talking about a fire that almost cost him his life that originated in the chimney. So jump back in, Wiley. Sorry.
Okay, so the fire had already progressed. It had already progressed to the point that we were chasing it the whole way. In fact, we had two companies that were working on going upstairs to get ahead of it. We realized that it had gone so far. The particular thing about this house, too, I guess I should point out, was that it was somewhere around 7,000 square feet, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
Had an elevator and all that. But the captain I was with, Captain Chaffin, he made the decision that we need to get ahead of it and start pulling ceilings ahead of it.
Yeah.
What we didn't realize as we were working our way through was what was considered there's void spaces. They're called knee walls and that sort of thing. So a whole lot of the smoke, a whole lot of the heat was collecting behind those walls, and we had no idea. We were unaware. We knew that there was smoke inside the house as we were going through, but we didn't know that we were completely surrounded. It was all around us. It was under us. It was over us. It was ahead of us. We didn't know. Smoke had presented itself, but if anyone that knows what I'm talking about, there's very heavy particles in thick, dense smoke. And if the air is moving, those particles are moving. So you'll be able to see it. They go certain directions. Sometimes they go zigzag. They're pulling from an open window here, an open door there. And what I mean is you can see that in any kind of fire pit fire or something like that. You can see the same thing depending on what kind of smoke that you're creating. But particularly in this one, there was a very heavy particle fire. And I remember distinctly seeing that, but there was no heat. It was just a really heavy fire, near zero vis, and we were not ahead of it. So we took some pike poles and we went upstairs to the second floor, and it actually had a third floor that was unfinished that we noticed later on. But we went into this one hallway, giant wide hallway, took a right into another hallway, into another big room, turned out to be another big bedroom. They actually had a walk-in closet. It was probably the size of my house. It was just a big space. but there was a bathroom to my left. And I remember this very distinctly, that we're going through, we're not worked up exactly, just because, like I said, there was no heat, not even very little, but no heat. But like I said, there was heavy particles, heavy smoke. So we were staying within voice range of one another, and we fan out, because we're looking for a window, we're looking for doors. We want to make sure that we're not going to get locked into a place. And to my left, I heard a bunch of crackling and popping inside of a wall. To my left was a bathroom. So I went in there, and I only found out that it was a bathroom. Like I said, zero vis, that I started to reach for the wall to hear or feel behind it. And I realized that I was over a toilet, because I could, make out its shape.
Right. So
I heard it behind the wall, and that's when I kind of leaned out and tried to scream through my mask, "Did any of you bring a hammer? Because I'm going to go through this wall. I think we've finally found it. It's right here." And as soon as that happened, it was in an instant, in an absolute instant. I was on the floor. It was almost like it was magic. Like I was on the floor. My face was on the floor, this far from the floor, with my face piece, and there was fire right here.
Jeez.
Everything around me was on fire. And I don't mean like you see in the movie, they show little flames here and there. I'm talking about it was just this big old ball, this light. It was beyond hot. And it was funny, because since you asked me to do this thing, I was kind of reliving it just yesterday, actually. And one thought that crossed my mind was just how quiet it was. There was so much chaos and noise and banging and all that, the popping and all that stuff. When you're inside literally a single flame, essentially that's what that was.
Yeah.
It was completely quiet. And it's hard to explain. But anyway, so there was a percussion, there was an explosion, and it was followed by fire. And it was called a cold smoke explosion, which was determined by the ATF later. They were there for investigation as well, because of the insurance claim that was being made. From what I understand, the insurance company asked for the ATF to investigate as well. So there was our investigators and the ATF, and they considered it. Their investigation determined it to be a cold smoke explosion, which is very different from a backdraft. But I can go into detail with that later. So that day, I'm laying right there on the floor, and there was all that fire. Because of the percussion, it slammed the door shut with me in the bathroom as it was on fire. When I will say this before I go on to the next part. There's plenty of situations where people, before they go into any kind of combat situation, it can be a martial arts fight, it can be a boxing ring, it can be in actual combat with the military, and you're going through training and you're learning how to shoot and fight the enemy, or you're going into a meeting and you're trying to learn how to how we can have more sales this year and beat our competition. It's all combat. It's all relative. And I'm here to tell you, every time someone without experience in a crazy, like a thread balanced life and death situation, whatever that you're in, I love it when people say, "I'll tell you what I would do."
Yeah.
Let me tell you, you don't know what you're going to do. You do not know what you're going to do. You hope that you do what you think you're going to do. Yeah. But sometimes you don't. Sometimes you curl up into a ball and you say, "Well, this is it." And that's what I did. There was no way out of that. I didn't realize a way out. And instantly, or I say instantly, when I started to gather what was happening, thankfully, I had enough energy to reach up through that fire and open the door that I was closed in the bathroom and fell out into the hallway. When I did that, there was fire as well, but there was at least enough of a clearing that I was safe on the floor. So when that happened, I wake up to a pinging sound in my ear and a massive pain in my head. And I realized that I was drifting out. I was passing out. And that's when I lost consciousness. And so I just remember being upstairs. I remember one of the last things that I remember seeing was this light. And of course, it was light from our trucks. It wasn't some sort of, heavenly thing, but lights from our trucks that were peering in through the window. And it was counteracting with, the smoke, and it kind of looked eerie. And I remember thinking to myself, well, this is it. And I don't know where any of my friends are. And that was it. I was done. So later found out my captain and another firefighter that we were with were blown downstairs. So they were at the edge of that hallway. And when the explosion happened, it slammed me on the ground and it slammed the door and contained me in a room as it punched them downstairs. So they thought that I was in front of them and went to the door. The door was locked. The firefighter opened it without thinking. He just opened it and went outside. They looked around for me and I wasn't there. And that's when Bull, that's the firefighter's name, Chris Bull. That's literally his name. That's not a nickname, but
great dude as well.
Yeah. And that's when he told Captain that the door was locked. Wiley couldn't have come out here. And then that's when they called a Mayday. So of course I'm just going on what they said. Cause I don't remember any of it. I remember waking up sort of coming around when I was in the ambulance headed to Vanderbilt. So yeah. So that one was a bit hairy. And oh, by the way, so for anybody listening, I'm a big fan of Halloween. I'm a huge fan of Halloween. Actually, you can ask my wife. I love anything scary. So I remember asking one of the medics about some sort of demon, some sort of teethy looking animal thing. What was that? My imagination showed pictures. And Tommy, I don't know if you remember this, but where they started to prep me, but to get me on the stretcher and they cut off all my gear was in front of that gargoyle that was for a decoration. Yeah. So at some point I started kind of, and I saw it in my subconscious, I guess, but there was a demon there or something. And anyway, that was Halloween, but it was October 3rd too. So they'd already decorated their house anyway. So found out I had a concussion. I had a lot of smoke inhalation. I was on a breathing machine for a little bit. And then, taken care of. Tom and Chris and Tom both burned their ears. Yeah. They blacked their skin that burned off, turned it black, literally. I mean, it baked it.
Yeah.
The top of their ears. And then Rob, he busted his shoulder, right? I believe that's right.
Yeah. I just remember, so you were on A shift, I was on C shift. So you guys would always, relieve us. And I remember that night, people calling and, saying you guys had gotten hurt.
Yeah.
And, by the time that information was relayed out to the rest of us, it was at first, it was, hey, they're transporting Wiley, Tom, and Chris. And then, Wiley was hurt pretty bad. And then, as time progressed, they updated everybody. But I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, me too, man. And it literally was one of those things, like I came out of that bathroom and I could have gone left. If I did, I probably wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
It's because I went right. It was that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you hear Tom and Chris talk about it, which, by the way, the city of Franklin did an amazing documentary basically on this event, just because, it was, it was a close call. That's an industry term that we talk about when stuff goes, basically everything goes sideways and somebody almost gets hurt. Well, you did get hurt, but man, you're here to tell the story. But it's on the City of Franklin YouTube page, but and it's worth watching. But man, I think that you and Angie and your two kids, and dadgum, Chris Bull's got a whole pile of kids, and Tom Chaffin's got kids, and everybody's married, and man, it just really hit home, because especially for me, knowing, everybody that was involved, and, it kind of brings everything, like you and I have talked about before, Wiley, full circle of, man, what we're really dealing with here. And in our industry, I tell people all of the time that, we are a link in the chain of fire prevention, right?
Very much so.
It's so important for us to do our job and do it right, and to be a partner with you guys in educating the homeowner, because everybody just assumes that I'm going to light a fire in my fireplace inside my home, and it's going to work just fine. And that's what this guy did, right? This homeowner, this house wasn't that old. He was like, man, I'm going to enjoy a fire with my family. Lights a fire, and for whatever reason, that fire went where it wasn't supposed to. And then you guys had to come do your job. And, man, what, and then, dude, it almost cost you your life. And that's why this is so important. That's why education is so important. And,
it's vital.
It is. And you said something earlier, man, that it was so true. You were talking about, you don't know what you're going to do. We can say, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. I can tell you, we would train at the fire department, man. This is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to do that. Just like Tom Chaffin is a heck of a firefighter, man. He knows what he's doing. And, he's thinking, I'm going to get ahead of this fire. And then he never anticipated this was going to happen. But that's why, with the NFPA and this year's motto about, fire doesn't wait, make a plan. It's so important, man. I know that my wife and my kids, if our house catches on fire, you're going to get out of there, right? You're going to climb out your bedroom window. You're not going to open that bedroom door. And you're going to go to this tree, and you're going to stay there. And it's so important to do those drills, right? We hammered it all the time.
Is that something you guys talk about?
Is it?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, man. Yeah. Exit drills in the home, right? It's Edith. That's what you need to be doing that stuff. I know does Franklin still give out the ribbon where it says like meeting place?
Yep.
I'm telling you, dude, that place. Everybody from firefighter to chief is so dedicated to educating the homeowner in the city of Franklin. I know Brentwood does it, Spring Hill does it, Nashville does it. I've only experienced Franklin's, but man, it's such a good thing. And like I said to you before, I tell our folks, man, we have to do our job so that you, Wiley, and Tom Chaffin and Chris Bull, so that you guys don't have to go do yours. And because this is what can happen, right? I mean, there's no fire that's ever a routine fire. And if we can prevent that from happening through routine maintenance, man, I think that the most powerful thing, Wiley, is for people to, one, hear your story, and then two, man, put a name with a face. Right. I tell when I teach classes or when I speak to anybody, I tell this story and I talk about you. And when I hear you talk about it, I think about Angie and your two kids, and it's interesting because when I got the call that night and I think about, man, the first memories that I had were, me, you, and Brian Pewitt at the rescue squad. And then, at your wedding, just because man, you're a special guy, and those other two are as well. And I just think that it's so important for people to understand that, just like you said, just like when you said the homeowner was standing there and he was trying to, spray the hose. We've been to one at Jonathan's in Cool Springs. It caught on fire one time, and we got there, and there was a garden hose running inside, and I just followed the garden hose in. There's a guy in there trying to put the fire out, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
get out of here.
you gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, man. I've seen it before, and I'm obviously, you guys know installation and fireboxes, that sort of thing. But to be honest, dude, I don't remember a time seeing one around the firebox like that.
Yeah.
And the fire had just grown hot enough that it had banked back down, and it was just consuming that entire space. Anyway, that was interesting to me also, that it was completely useless. And even in that moment, spraying water on the fire was completely useless because the fire was already way ahead. So I bet homeowners are not aware of that as well, of what could happen and what to look for. And,
absolutely. And Bart Ogden made a comment, and Bart's in our industry and runs a great business. He says to you, Wiley, thank you so much for sharing your experience as certified chimney sweeps. We never know how many lives we have saved. Over the course of my 43-year career, it's humbling to think about the impact we've made by keeping the fire in the fireplace. And that's it.
God, man, that's good. That's so good.
I mean, I talk about this a lot. It's not a metric that we can measure, right? Like, I can't tell you, well, because of our thoroughness. We had a guy on here, well, actually two, Bill Ryan out of New Jersey, and Mike Segerstrom out of New Jersey. Mike talked about building a fire the proper way. Bill Ryan talked about the importance of an inspection. We can't, it's not immeasurable and say, man, because we educated this person and because we did a thorough inspection, we saved their life. We can't measure that. Just like you were talking about, man, you've been at the fire department for 23 years. There's no telling how many thousands of kids you've done stop, drop, and roll, or you've done.
The meeting place is a big one.
Meeting place.
Get out, yeah.
Yeah, get out and stay out. Or you've run the Franklin Fire Department has a trailer that they bring out to schools and to malls, and it's set up, and we'll fill it with theatrical smoke. And I mean, while there's no telling how big of an impact you've made.
And a question for you guys too. I like what Bart said about it. It sounds like a rule of thumb that you guys go by, is to keep the fire in the fireplace. I like that phrase.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds okay, duh, but that's a great way to put it, man. That's a rule of thumb. Look, man, we got to make sure that this is right when we install, I would assume.
Yep.
So that the fire stays in the fireplace. That's our goal.
That's
simple
exactly
as it is. It's a big one.
Yeah.
That's pretty important.
Man, and if we don't do that,
obviously,
that's a big deal. This could happen, just like you were talking about, man. That fire was outside of the fireplace in a space that it shouldn't have been.
Right.
And if you understand building construction, that is a hollow chase, more than likely, all the way up to the top, man. So that thing is just running. And, and that's why this stuff is so important. I mean, we scream it from the rooftops. And a guy that you know very well, who passed away a year ago this August, Chief Eddie House, he told me one time, and I think it's probably safe to say, Wiley, that he was a mentor to you as well. I think he mentored dang near everybody. He was just that special of a dude. But he told me one time, he said, stop chasing accolades and start chasing impact. Your accolades will die with you, but your impact will last for forever.
Huh.
Man,
I've never heard him say that. I guess he liked you more than he did me.
Of course, probably. But yeah, he,
that's great too.
Yeah, man. And that's what we're trying to do, man. Just make an impact. And just because we can't measure it or we don't get, an award for it, it's so important, man. And Wiley, your story, dude, it is so freaking powerful. I'd love to have you and Tom and Chris on, and man, just let you guys and let them talk about it, because I know that man, if you ever hear Tom and Chris talk about it, just like you were talking about, they didn't leave Wiley behind. And those two guys, the first thing they wanted to do when they realized you weren't there was they were coming to get you.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I should clarify that, and I should have at least. But
no,
yeah, that's what happened after. Of course, was the fact was that they realized I wasn't there and they went back up. They assumed I was ahead of them.
But I mean, I want people to think about that. An explosion just occurred that blew them down the stairs, right? Most people are going to be like, look, man, inventory, I'm alive. There's no way I'm going back in there. Their first reaction was to go right back at it.
Right.
Because they had to come get you.
Yeah. And I was still up there all by my lonesome. Luckily for me, I was unconscious. So
yeah, well, man, and truth be told, you probably could have bench pressed the entire house. So
it's funny you say that too. A little sidebar. The Nashville Stair Climb had their first event that year, and we had just got done doing the Nashville Stair Climb. So before that, 2 or 3 months before that, we were going to the parking garage and running stairs.
Yeah.
So we're in pretty good shape. And then that fire happened, not too long after that, but we were still in pretty good shape. So I think that contributed some, anyway, it's a good point too. I never really thought about that till now.
Training and equipment. What you guys don't know is that Wiley is probably the strongest human being that I know. It's true.
Just because I look like The Rock doesn't mean I'm as strong as him.
Anybody that can bench press over 500 pounds, stop it. But yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, man, all of that didn't matter. And if you think about it, Wiley, let's go back in succession, man. So if for whatever reason, if we can what if it to death, right? What if we did this? What if we did that? But let's even go back even further, man. What if that fireplace or whatever went wrong, was found during a routine inspection or through installation? If there was some sort of installation error, it could have been a shipping error. I don't know.
Yep.
Man, all of this could have been prevented. But that is that. I mean, I think that is the message I want people to hear, is that it's better to know. It's better to, number one, educate yourself. And if an event occurs, that you know what you're going to do because you've practiced it, right? When they realized that you weren't down or that you weren't there, and they sent in a RIT team, which is a rapid intervention team, those guys, because all of that repetition, right? I mean, think about how many times, Wiley, at least when I was there, when we would do those trainings over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, I'm so tired of doing this. But then, man, when you have to put that into action, it's second nature. And that's what we want people to do in their home, to know exactly what they're going to do, right? What their plan is, where they're going to go. If there's a fire here, and that's why we always tell people to sleep with the bedroom doors closed. If you don't do that tonight. Start tonight, and have working smoke detectors and all of those things, and then get out and let the fire department do their job, right? Let them. Don't go back in there. Go back. Let them do their job. When Steve Wells was telling me that it was my job to prevent the fire from ever happening, one of the things that he said, I've never been to a fire where somebody hasn't lost something that they couldn't replace, whether that was a loved one, a family pet, a family heirloom. And we want to prevent that loss from ever happening. And for us in our industry, we don't want you, Wiley, or Tom Chaffin or Chris Bull to ever have to go into a house that's on fire, period. Right? We don't want our customers to have to deal with that. We don't want you to have to deal with that. And
I would assume that what you were talking about just then about knowing what to check, the get out, stay out, the what to have a plan, those things that you're talking. I'm assuming that that's a checklist that you guys are going through for installs with the homeowners.
So yeah, most of us do, yes. And then on the CSIA website, we have a lot of homeowners resources. So we have that information for them. Right there, homeowner safety tips, everything down to Wiley, which listen, even when I was at the fire department, we would have people that would chop their Christmas tree up and throw it in the fireplace, right? And it would start flue fire. You've seen it. I've seen it. And but people just don't know, right?
They don't know. They don't know. Yeah.
And and most fires, like we've heard a million times, most fires are preventable. Some of them you can't prevent, some of them are preventable, most of them. And so that's what we want to focus in on, man. Prevent those from ever happening. So you can go to CSIA.org, Franklin Fire Department. You can go to franklintn.gov to the fire department page. And man, there's a ton of information there, right? If you're watching this and you live in the city limits of Franklin, man, reach out to the fire department, because if you want to learn something, they have people, Jamie Melton, Chief Johnson, Chief Baltimore, Andy King, the fire marshal's office, they are all there to help. Everybody on shift, stop at any fire hall, somebody can tell you and teach you something. And everybody's always willing to do so. But it's so important. And man, just like you said, plan. We got to plan our escape. And man, you nailed it when you were talking about you don't know what you're going to do. You have no idea. No idea.
No.
Idea.
Yeah. You think you do, and that's fine. But when the feet's to the fire, it could be anything. Absolutely.
But man, Wiley, I'm glad you're here.
Me too, man.
And I'm glad Chris and Tom are here, and Rob, and all those guys that are still working at the fire department. And because we could have been having a different conversation. And and
it's the same too goes to you guys, and I really appreciate what y'all do. And that's not said lightly. I really do mean it. I mean, the education side of it is a big deal. I mean, let's face it, you're putting a fire inside a home.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's right.
We kind of take it for granted sometimes. There's a fireplace, and we should build a fire, and it's cold outside.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
There's so much that goes into it to make that safe. So yeah, education goes a long way, obviously.
That's exactly right, man. And so, Wiley, I cannot thank you enough for your service to not only your country, but also to the community that you were raised in and live in. And it is an honor to call you my friend and to know you.
Same here.
And to have worked with you. And thank you for coming on tonight and sharing your story. I know that it's not easy. I'm sure Angie probably hates hearing it all the time.
That's why she's outside in the she shed.
But thank you because like I said, I think that it's really, it gets people's attention, and there's no telling the impact that it's going to have. And so you're taking something that was a tragic event and you're turning that into something good. And I cannot thank you enough.
Well, thank you for having me, and appreciate what you guys do. And we'll do it again sometime.
Yes. And so, man, as you are approaching, Wiley, the end of your time, I don't know if you're going to do 30 years at the fire department. I don't know, but man, I know you still lift. And here's the thing about Wiley, multifaceted, highly talented guy. Not only is he an incredible firefighter, he's super strong. He's also an author. He writes books. You can buy them on Amazon. But support this guy and support your local fire department wherever you are. those guys and gals get after it. They know what they're signing up for, and they're willing to do it. And so, man, thank you. Wow.
You're the man. Thanks, and thanks to you guys.
Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Please like and share this. Man, I think people need to hear this. I think people need to hear this story. They need to see Wiley and get to know him. And yeah, so please share this, because you don't know how many lives we could save by just educating people. And go to the CSIA website, and remember, go to the NFPA.org. Plan an escape do those drills in the home, and stay safe. So everybody, have a good evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks so much.
See you guys.
Good night.